Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something completely different.
Okay.
We're jumping from ancient history to something a little more modern,
Right.
but still with a historical twist.
Okay.
We're talking about the mafia.
Interesting.
Yeah, predicting mafia infiltration using machine learning.
Wow.
So this is a research paper that we're diving into, and it's really fascinating. It uses all this data to try to figure out where the mafia is going to infiltrate next.
Okay.
Before we jump into all that, though,
Yeah.
for those who may not know,
Right.
what is mafia infiltration when we're talking about local governments?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So really we're talking about organized crime groups,
Mhm.
gaining power, influence, control within a government.
Okay.
So we're talking
So like rigged.
rigged contracts,
Yeah.
manipulated elections, things like that. And their goal is to really just kind of pull strings from the shadows,
Right.
use their influence for financial gain, of course, but also to stifle any opposition and just operate with impunity. It's about power and profit.
So it's like a hostile takeover,
Exactly.
but of like a city.
Of a city, of a town's administration.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that law enforcement usually deals with this, I imagine, is
Yeah.
they see something going on
It's very reactive.
and then they react to that.
They usually only get involved
Right.
after the fact, once there's like hard evidence of some illegal activity,
Right.
which at that point, it's already happened.
Right. Yeah, the damage is done.
Exactly, by which point the damage is
So
done.
this is trying to get ahead of that.
This is trying to flip the script
Okay.
using data to try to predict
Okay.
where infiltration is likely to occur
Yeah.
before it even happens.
So what data are we using? Are we talking like super secret
No way.
NIA backroom data?
This is all publicly available data,
Oh, wow.
which is fascinating in and of itself. So they're looking at local election results,
okay.
things like voter turnout, demographics of elected officials,
Hmm.
and even things like public spending records.
Okay.
How much is being allocated to different projects?
How much are they getting?
Who's winning these contracts?
Right.
That sort of thing.
So just out in the open, they're able to kind of piece together
They're finding patterns.
these patterns and say,
Exactly.
something might be up here.
Yep.
What are some of those patterns that they're looking at?
So, for example, they found that the share of votes for the winning mayoral candidate
Okay.
could be a surprisingly strong indicator.
Interesting.
Now, obviously, that in and of itself doesn't automatically mean foul play,
Right.
right? But in areas with suspected or confirmed mafia presence,
Mm-hmm.
an unusually high or unusually low voter turnout,
Okay.
combined with these other factors,
Yeah.
could raise a red flag.
Okay.
They also found a correlation between the number of female mayors
Interesting.
and lower levels of infiltration,
Really?
which suggests a bias
Why?
that might be built into how these organizations are run.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we have all this data. How do we go through it all?
Right.
How do we even begin to make sense of mountains and mountains and mountains of data?
That's where machine learning comes in.
Okay.
The researchers essentially train a machine learning model,
Okay.
specifically an XGBoost model, to be like a mafia profiler.
A mafia profiler.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool.
Right.
So how does that work? Okay, so it's analyzing all this data.
Right. So they feed it huge amounts of data
Mm-hmm.
on municipalities that were previously identified as infiltrated.
Okay.
And the model analyzes this data. It starts to identify patterns,
Okay.
relationships, things that humans might just totally miss.
Right.
Think of it as teaching a computer
Okay.
to recognize the subtle signs of a con artist.
Yeah.
But instead of
Instead of card tricks?
instead of a slick talker, we're talking about organized crime.
Right. Okay, so it's picking up on those
Exact.
skewed election results and
Yeah.
those fishy contracts.
That's right.
So how accurate is this?
Well, the results are really impressive.
Hmm.
This model was able to correctly predict mafia infiltration
Wow.
in 96% of the municipalities.
96%.
96% that were later officially identified as infiltrated
Wow.
by the Italian government.
That's incredible.
It is, but it gets even better.
Okay.
This model wasn't just accurate. It
Yeah.
was often able to predict this infiltration up to 2 years in advance.
2 years in advance? That's like
The year.
Minority Report.
It is.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time for authorities to step in.
It is valuable time
Yeah.
to intervene.
Does this research go into what might make a community more susceptible to
Well,
infiltration.
they do. It's one thing to be able to pinpoint, like,
Right.
okay, this is where organized crime might be taking root.
Right.
But if you really want to get ahead of the problem, you need to understand, like, why are these areas vulnerable in the first place?
Right.
What is it about these communities? So they looked at a period when there was this massive influx of EU development funds that were pouring into certain regions of Italy.
Okay.
This was between 2007 and 2013, and they wanted to see if there was any correlation there.
So we're talking about huge sums of money
Huge.
going to develop these areas.
Development infrastructure projects.
Yeah, you would think that would be a good thing.
You would think.
Right.
You would think more money, more development.
Yeah.
Things are good.
Did this challenge that?
It did. They found a strong link between the areas that receive large amounts of these EU funds and a higher predicted rate of mafia infiltration.
Wow, so it backfired.
Well, it's not a simple case of like money equals mafia, you know?
Right.
It's a lot more nuanced than that.
Of course. Yeah.
The researchers suggest that this influx of funds, while it was well-intentioned, might have inadvertently created these new opportunities for organized crime to exploit the system.
Yeah, because it's more money flowing around.
Exactly.
More contracts, more people trying to get their hands in.
More contracts, more tenders, more opportunities for things like bid rigging, skimming off the top, steering contracts towards mafia-connected businesses.
Makes sense.
Right.
So this isn't just about catching the criminals after the fact.
Exactly.
It's about looking at...
It's about understanding
policies.
How seemingly positive policies
can sometimes have unintended consequences.
Yes, exactly.
That's great.
It really highlights the need for transparency.
Of course.
And really robust oversight.
Right.
Especially when you're dealing with these large sums of public money.
It really makes you think, if we can use this to predict something like the mafia, what else could we use this for?
Well, that's a question that the researchers also bring up. Towards the end of the paper.
Yeah.
They really emphasize this idea of predictive analysis.
Right.
Having much broader application. You know, if we can use data to anticipate something as complex as organized crime, what other insights might be hidden within the data that we're collecting every single day?
So, like, what could we predict? Could we predict, like, corruption in governments?
Potentially.
Or fraud in corporations?
Possibly.
What about public health crises?
Yeah, I mean, there's...
Could we get ahead of that?
I mean, the possibilities really are endless.
Wow.
Especially as we, as a society, collect more and more data.
Right.
Our ability to analyze that effectively is only going to increase.
Yeah.
But it's like any powerful tool, right? It needs to be used responsibly.
And of course, ethically.
Ethically.
Yeah.
We need to be having these conversations about data privacy, about algorithmic bias.
Right. It's not just can we, it's should we.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just about what we can do with this technology, it's what should we do with it.
Well said.
The future of data is not just about numbers and algorithms. It's about understanding the human implications of how we gather and analyze and act upon this information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, I think we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the world of mafia prediction.
Very cool.
We want to know what you guys think, though.
Yeah.
Head over to social media and let us know what your thoughts are on this.
Let us know.
Do you think that this is the future? Are we going to be able to combat organized crime using these new technologies?
Right.
Or are you a little hesitant? Are there some concerns there about how this could be misused?
Yeah, how this data could be misused.
Definitely let us know. And as always, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving deep and never stop asking questions.